Alright, so the ban list is approaching and I figured we could talk about decks that aren't going to be hit and that might be safe investments moving forward. If you like the video, make sure to like it as well as ding the bell so you are always notified when I post, and share your thoughts in the comments down below. We have 5 decks to cover, but I would love to hear your thoughts on decks that are good investments right now. The first one I want to talk about is Rika, mainly because it's getting new support and I think some of the cards are actually kind of good. Like, I'm not that familiar with plant cards, so I don't know if Rika players are going to be playing every single of the fusion stuff and all of that, but the link, the Aroma Lilith Rosemary, seems really nice and the rest of the cards are really interesting, so we'll see what happens with that. But just outside of the support, the deck is so solid. It is just a really nice combo deck. It does take a good pilot, but I think one of the great things about the deck is also its ability to play through disruption. Now, sometimes a very well-timed, impactful card is definitely going to hurt Rika, but I still think you can get away with, just doing a couple of disruptions and still winning, because the disruptions you do put up are really, really strong. Like, their field spell is just not a real card, in my opinion. There's Rika Sheet, there's Princess in the Graveyard, and so many different types of disruption, which I always mention when I talk about Rika, but I think it's just such a good thing to play a deck where your opponent is going to be kind of confused which cards to side, because you have so many different types of disruption, as opposed to just a field of like 5 monsters where one Dark Ruler is just going to completely annihilate you. So in my opinion, Rika is not getting hit, and it's also a really, really nice and strong deck moving forward. Next up, I want to talk about Chimera variants, and with that, I also want to touch upon another engine, Horus cards. Now, I get that they are going up in price, but if you did watch my video about cards that are gonna go up in price, you maybe picked up Horus beforehand. If you pick up Horus, you can pair it together with Chimera, and the Chimera engine has always been cheap, and you can also pair that together with Branded. So you have different variants of Chimera. There's also runic cards that got reprinted, so they're not expensive anymore. But that side of things is a little risky because they might actually hit Tip or like Fountain, which we'll see what happens. But I do think the safe investment would be Chimera stuff, because at this point, even if they decide that for some reason Branded Fusion is like this huge issue right now and they hit it, you can still play Chimera with Horus, because they're definitely not gonna hit an engine that just came out and it's making the money and it's really expensive. So there's that. And just talking about what the deck is able to accomplish, I think it's really, really solid. If you look at the branded version, of course, the amazing thing about it is how easily you're able to bait Ash, since Ash on Sword Knight does kind of hurt, but you still have all of the branded stuff to back you up. And if you have been looking at results, like Chimera variants have been doing well consistently, and I think that's really, really important. So that's another of the decks that I would be very chill about investing into. Alright, so let's talk about Monodium. I talked about it in yesterday's video, so I won't spend too much time on it, but I think Monodium is a good investment. If they decide to hit the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity, it's whatever, because usually from what we have been seeing, Monodium is just doing different things and they are not so focused on achieving the lock, which I think is much, much better, because then you're pretty much putting all of your eggs in one basket, as opposed to like deviating from the combo and doing different things. So if your lock gets disrupted, which actually can happen because you can get kind of chain blocked out of it, and that's really important to remember so you don't get cheated. But this is not a rulings video, so let's go back to Monodium. I think the deck is just solid. It is really, really nice, but sometimes a well-timed disruption, just like with Rika, is going to stop you. But that's the case with most of the combo decks. So you kind of want to look at decks that are consistent enough at doing what they do. And I think Monodium is just strong. You have all of the field spells, and then you have more field spells that get you to your combo. So you are consistently getting to that couple card starters or 1 card starters even sometimes. And you can do Prisma stuff. You can do different combos. Astral Out is really, really strong. And again, very similarly to Rika, if you put up 1 to 2 disruptions, you're still probably fine, because you're also playing non-engine to back you up. I also love that they have the trap card Monodium Reframing, which is pretty much protecting you from blowout cards. So in my opinion, Monodium is a really strong deck moving forward, especially if the top meta decks get hit on the ban list. Now this next one is a little weird, maybe a tiny bit risky, but I want to talk about Labyrinth. Look, if they hit Labyrinth, they are not going to completely kill it, because they could by hitting, like completely banning Lady or getting rid of one of the welcome cards. But I just don't see it happening because they always kind of want to have a trap deck in the meta. It's like balancing things out. And if you look at OCG, Labyrinth is still really popular there. And the other thing that they could hit is Eradicator. And if we're being completely honest, I think most of us would be completely happy with Eradicator gone. It's just really annoying and it's just so tough to deal with. That's the main issue with the card. So if they get rid of it, it is still an insanely solid deck that is putting up monsters as well as everything in the back row. And you can pretty much dedicate all of your trap cards to what the meta is currently doing and what's happening. And also, another reason, the main reason why I don't think they're gonna hit Labyrinth is the card from Phantom Nightmare. And I might misremember that or mispronounce that, I should say, but I think it's Rumpelteufel or something along those lines because it does sound kind of German. It's basically the card with the artwork of Aluber and it's a trap card. And then there's the transaction rollback as well. And they have been pushing their kind of promos in the direction of, if you picked up Labyrinth with the reprints, you might want to invest into this card as well. I think the deck is not getting hit. And also, you're not spending a lot of money if you invest into it and then it ends up being hit. So don't be mad at me for giving you advice to pick up Labyrinth. I just don't see it happening. And you can share all of your thoughts as well, because for the last deck, I'm leaving it up to you guys. Please let me know what you think is the deck that people should be picking up, but I will give you a couple ideas. I think a good investment is Dragon, because literally at this point, they're not gonna hit Dragon any further. And you can play it with so many different variants. You can go for Dragon Link variants, you can play it with Resonators and all of the Synchro stuff. And another deck, the last one on the list, that's like an idea, but it's still a tiny bit risky, is Infernoble. So Isolde might get hit, but there's different arguments for and against, which I won't go into that much. I already mentioned it a bit when I talked about my banlist predictions, but if you invest into Infernoble, I think you should be fine. They want to push simple spoils, and the deck is really benefiting off of playing those cards, which are obviously new and expensive. And also the actual Infernoble core is not expensive. Like, I get that there's Heritage of the Chalice, and it's just so dumb that the card is so expensive. But on the other hand, the last reprint was in like 2019 or something, so you might have copies lying around, and if you don't, I don't know, I'm sorry. It's the only card that's a little more expensive that you would have to pick up. But it's very similar to Labyrinth, where you would have to pick up big welcomes. So you can decide for yourself, but I think Infernoble is still a safe investment, because like usually what Konami has been doing is like putting cards to 1 when they're really broken, just like it happened with Hulk. And they might do the same to Isolde and just like be done with it and feel like they've done a good job. I don't know. I just don't think Infernoble is in, any danger of getting hit, and I do think it's a safe investment. So that's pretty much going to be it. Please let me know what you think, if those decks are actually safe pickups, and if you enjoyed the video, of course, give it a like as well. Of course, the Sleeve Chief Black Friday sale is still going on, so make sure to use code SHADOW for extra 5% off on top of the 20% off that they already have site-wide, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.